So it's Saturday, April 16th, 2022, and I am trying to recover from a really tough 2 weeks. I'm still finding that I'm doing the sob and bob as soon as I think about anything, but I have made some connections, and finding Al's film was so essential for me. I've been desperate to find his files. I haven't got them all, but I have a huge proportion of what he was working on, some of his edited stuff, and I'm hoping with the help of a couple of really talented people that I can get it edited so I can get it out there. So his the Costuming Mind movie that he's been working on for well over 12 years. I can remember when we were watching Ken Burns discussing what it's like to do a documentary, and he said, 10 years is nothing, 20 can go into them. And when Al was at Wayne State University, they were talking, he took a documentary class there, and they said, if you're thinking you can do it in a year or two, it's not a documentary. That's just a quick film. And I was thinking about all the hours and the travel that we put into and going to different events. And, it was the two of us were doing it. I mean, I'd go out, and if we had a show going on, I would go out in my scooter, and I would go meet other people out in at the Comic Con or the Worldcon and say that Al was back at my booth, where I was selling my mixed media art stuff. And then Al would, when I'd come back, I'd say, so-and-so is going to come, and then, you can interview them and whatever. So then we had set up a little area every time we did an event. And then when we were at Costume Con, he was lucky enough to be able to interview some people. And when we were at, Arcon and the different World Cons and the local conventions, and then we even did Comic Cons and steampunk, and it was just an exciting way to do it. I mean, we got to meet so many creative artisans, and it was it just sent such a sense of enjoyment to both of us, because we both love, and we both have loved costuming. In fact, I found some of his 8mm film when he was a teenager, with him trying to do a Star Trek film with some other buddies, and then they were trying to do they tried to do a little story and everything, and I think, oh my gosh, he was into doing costuming as much as I was into it. I mean, my brothers and sister, they used to love Halloween because I would make them costumes, and we would go out, and, finally it got to a point where they couldn't compete anymore because they were winning. And so, when we do, in the city of Birmingham, they'd say, well, you can come and show up, but you can't compete because we have to give other people a chance, and my mother didn't think that was terribly fair, because she said, you put so much work into it, but I know what they were talking about. And then I'll never forget when I decided to surprise my husband in Baltimore, and we were at a Worldcon and go on stage, and then I actually won my very first award. And it was like, my poor husband was like, I can't believe you did that underneath my nose. And he got called Captain Oblivious, because I did it in the hotel room, worked on it, And so costuming has been, with all the tragedies we've dealt with and all the things that we've had to deal with, it was our escape. It was the creativity coming out on so many levels. And because of his historic knowledge of film and my historic knowledge of the costuming aspects, and my love of sewing and creating and doing things, and then Al would write wonderful scripts, and it was a fun event. And with Costume Con just being over in Maryland this time, it just triggered all that fun that we'd had that I missed so bad. We were going to be going to this one, actually. This was our planned one because it was drivable. I mean, we could get there in like 2 days, you know. But, I mean, we had really planned on it, and I haven't opened up the costuming stuff that I was making, but I did find my husband's tuxedo, his and his kilt and some of that for his dress mess, as he called them, and, you know, stuff like that. So the last 2 weeks have been ones that I don't want to repeat. But I am so relieved to know that there's a way that I can get his story told and our story told, you know, because like Al said, it was something we both were madly in love with. In fact, we even had a guild here, the Great Lakes Guild, for a while. Just didn't get a lot of support in the Michigan area at the time. But, you know, it's like somebody was saying something about when you become a widow or a widower, you lose the person. That's true. But it's not just the person. It's the dreams you all had. It's the adventures you were going to take. Or it was the adventures that you were going to support and, you know, somebody else to take and everything. So, you know, it's the thoughts. It's the conversations. It's the goodnight kiss every night, you know. Or going to sleep holding hands, which Al and I always did. Or it's, you know, okay, as he used to call me, the brain, and he'd say he was Pinky, and he goes, okay, brain, what are we going to do? And I'd have to tell him, well, we just have to take over the world, you know. And it was like things like that, all these little inside things. And he would tell everybody when we get ready to for me to go on stage for a costume, which was an interesting thing considering at Baltimore I had such horrifying stage fright that Pierre Pettinger said, well, because I said to him, oh, I might die on stage. And he goes, well, if you die on stage, I'm going to crawl under your dress and run your Moby all the way across the stage anyway. So that's when I knew we were in the right group of people. When you have somebody that dedicated that they'll want to, keep the fun going, keep the fun going. So, yeah, I really have been stressed with such terrible news. And, you know, I mean, there's been some things trying to figure out how to fix some of the screw ups that, like, the coroner did and things like that. But in reality, I just want to honor my husband's love and passion. And, you know, the interesting thing for both of us was it didn't matter that we had disability issues. Never, ever, ever became an issue. We brought our own ramps. We had my scooter, we had my oxygen, and Al had his cane, and he, you know, whatever. And, you know, it was the only real time that we felt like who we were. We were people with interest and love, and we had many, many people that we just are so grateful for. And I mean, it was like, we want to go back as much as we can. Unfortunately, we got hit with some horrible financial crisis, and then our home was flooded, and then identity theft. And so we were only going to be able to do it again for, well, it was the October just before COVID hit. And we were getting ready to do it for that following year, go to a costume con and go to, you know, Archon again and things like that. So that was like almost 3 years ago we were attempting to do that. So things are different. I know that. I know there's not much I can do anymore. I don't have the mobility right now. If we find me a minivan, I could go places again, and that's one of our goals is trying to help me find one. But in today's market, as everybody knows, it's God. Finding a used car, I mean, a new car, forget it, but a used car is almost as impossible. But it was like, this is Easter Saturday, they say. Al and I never celebrated any holidays, so I have to be told what it is. But I feel like I finally am seeing some relief over the horrible news that I had gotten and the problems I was having, and then trying to find his films, because we had been packing everything up to move before COVID, and we were going to be leaving this area for good. So I am struggling, and it's something I have to do by myself, because I'm also in the process of sorting out all of Al's clothing and his personal goods and everything to donate, or, unfortunately trash. But, it's like having the hope that somebody actually sees the importance in what I'm trying to do, and they've offered to help me. It is like, it's given me hope. It really has. Because I'll be honest with you, unfortunately, Al's had to make funeral arrangements for me twice. We never expected me to still be alive. This was not the way it was going to go. The standing joke was that men die 7 years younger than women. And so I was 7 years older than him, so we would die together, And if I had gone with him that night, we would have died together, But he was just going to run up and get the mail, and, and then the guy hit him and killed him. So I have no idea why I'm here. I just know that now I feel my goal is to definitely make sure that the Costuming Mind gets finished. And I know it'll be a lot of different installments, because he's got 12 some years of film on there. But, I'll do as much as I can for as long as I have. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.